Let's talk about it. Come on and shout it. I talk, you talk, we talk. Women talk life. It ain't no surprise. Baby, you could see if you would open up your eyes. You won't understand if you can't open up your mind. So let's stop wasting time when women talk live.
And welcome to another episode of Women's Talk Live. This time it is overnight and it is unscripted. So get ready. This your girl, April J.
I'm your girl, SassyScribe.
And I'm K Elle Boogie.
And today, ladies, all my ladies over 50, we're talking about the menopause effect. Yes, we all have to reach that period of life at some point or another. So we're just going to kind of talk a little bit today, just some of our experiences and what we've gone through, what we are going through. And then you'll see everything come up on our little whiteboard, so you can see what's going on. And then we'll have a poll of the day. So we'll ask you a question, you answer it, and then on next week's show, we'll give you the results. Okay? Sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. So we're going to get into
great.
our little known fact, as we always start our show with. And this is a little interesting. So in the 17 and 1800s, menopause was described as a tragedy and a catastrophic attack. And to help women calm down, they handed them a prescription of tranquilizers. A liquid made from, what was this again? Bromide salt. Yes, they were injecting themselves with salt.
Can you imagine, though, back in the 1700s?
Yeah.
Going through menopause, and they weren't real clean either, so they looked dirty. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Just even if you think about the 17 and 1800s having your cycle.
Right.
And would they just let you lay on the bed and bleed out? I mean, what did you do?
Well,
back then.
Well, if you think about it, in I think in Africa, during tribals, they don't have that. So they have like a not a tent, but a hut where women go when they're on their period.
Oh, I bet that stinks. Okay.
But they don't have pads.
So they kind of set aside or separated from the other people while they on their cycle.
Yeah.
No, they not, because imagine if 8 women have their cycle at the same time and 8 women are in this hut. It's funky. It stinks.
If you think about it, if women live in a household, at some point their periods sync
up.
So yeah, I had that because I have 2 daughters. Lord have mercy.
Me too.
Used to be a nightmare. And then I got one living with me now. Yeah, pray for me, y'all. Pray for me, because that little chick.
Well, you know what? I can say this, because I didn't. All of the women out there, my prayers are with you if you experience any of these the symptoms of menopause. But I can knock on wood and say I don't have hot flashes.
Oh my God, honey, right here.
But the night sweats is taking your girl out. It's like, girl, out.
Yeah, I used to think my husband was throwing water on me at night. When I wake up, I'm soaked. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? And it's night sweats.
And it's under your titties. Yes. Oh, we unscripted, y'all. We remember that. We unscripted.
Yo, that's just like a hot flash.
I'll put you on that one. Because
it's under your titties.
I'm like, I felt like I just got out of the shower. And I do every once in a while get the hot flashes. They don't last very long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why is it so hot in here? Like, what's But yeah,
and it's all
night
of a
sweats
sudden
are a beast.
But
see, I go to the restaurant store to go get stuff, and I walk in the freezer without a jacket or anything on, because I'm like, I'm about to defrost our whole thing. It reminds me of Shirley Caesar when she talk about fire shot up in your bones. It really is. It's like somebody's just flicked a switch
But you know
and
what?
you're on fire.
This was like, oh my God, this has got to be like 30 years ago. The
Mm.
guy I was going with from high school, my high school sweetheart, his cousin and I were grocery shopping. And I know I done took us way off, but we
No, go
were
ahead.
grocery shopping. And she went to the freezer section and she opened up the thing. I said, "What you getting in there?" She said, "Shut up. I'm having a hot flash."
Yes,
And she
Lord,
was just
honey.
standing in the freezer section with the door
Yep.
open with her face in there, like trying. I
Yep.
said, if you could literally get your big ass in there, you would be inside that freezer right
Yes,
now. And
Lord.
I mean,
I
and when
can
I turned
attest.
around and looked at her, she was literally, she looked clammy.
Right.
And I was maybe, she wasn't even 40, but her mother went through the change early.
Right.
Yep.
My mother, if my mother had hot flashes, my mother never discussed that with us. So I don't know if she went through the change early or not. My mother's 86 now. She doesn't get a hot flash. She
God
might have
bless her.
night sweats. She might have had night sweats
Yeah.
because Daddy said, when Daddy was living, he said the bedroom was a refrigerator. So she might have had night
Mm.
sweats.
Well,
I
tell your
mean,
mother
my
give us a
mom
list of
didn't.
what she eat or drink because I get
Yeah.
all of
I mean,
that.
my
And
mom,
it's
I don't
really bad.
know when she went through it, but I do
Mm-hmm.
remember periods where she would be like, "Oh my gosh, it's really, but it wasn't like bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember periods, but she didn't really, I mean, she talked about it, but not as much. Like like for instance, I did not for the longest understand what perimenopause was until I
Right.
went to the doctor. And for all the ladies who don't know, perimenopause is leading up to menopause after often beginning in a woman's 40s, but sometimes as early as mid 30s. And I
Right.
did know a young lady who went through menopause in her 30s. So it doesn't
Yeah.
just apply to women who are in their
Well, it's
50s.
also about not just the age of, when you can start from the chemical imbalance, but when people get fibroids and things and they have partial hysterectomies or full hysterectomy, it will start your menopausal process. And
Mm,
a lot of times doctors don't issue us the extra estrogen and things to offset those symptoms that come with early onset menopause. Because when I had my own personal journey with menopause was I had a partial hysterectomy and none of the hormones were prescribed to me. And literally once menopause hit, it was like I was going through hell. It was
yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
Well, I
Take
just
estrogen.
had a hysterectomy. I had a hysterectomy at the beginning of this year.
Start your
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't have those, like people talking about. Do you know what really freaked me out about having a hysterectomy? It wasn't even the menopause. It was the vaginal dryness that women talk about, especially, because I know women that have suffered from vaginal dryness, all their lives. But it's
Mm-hmm.
the women I know that had hysterectomies that are in menopause and still have their full, what I call a full package,
Yeah,
that now suffer from vaginal dryness. And that was freaking me out because I never had that. And then they talked
yeah.
about how your libido was going to go down. I like sex. I was having an issue.
Me
I
too,
was like,
girl.
I was
Sassy
having an
like
issue.
Juicy
I
got
was
them
in
crazy.
here. Google was not my friend because I saw so many people talking about it. And then the other thing that got me, and this is, okay, y'all, I'm telling you, we could talk about this every week. But
Mm.
the other thing that got me was vaginal atrophy because I didn't know what that was.
What the
Okay,
hell is
check
that?
this out.
Wait a minute.
I
Okay,
Okay.
mean, I know
so
what atrophy is, but
it's a muscle. The vagina is a muscle. So if you
Mm-hmm.
know what atrophy is, that's what they're saying would happen because it's not being used because women don't have that libido. They don't want to have sex. So your muscle tends to get weak and you could have, check this out. Wait a minute. Vaginal prolapse. Oh my God.
Oh, no, no,
Like your
no, no,
coochie
no.
I've
done fell
heard of
out.
that.
It's like your coochie done fell out. Your coochie
I
done
heard
fell
of that.
out.
I heard of that.
I'm like, no. No, please, no.
I
I
can't
was
do
in this
that. I
house
can't do that. I
crying.
can't do that. I know me. Now I have not experienced vaginal dryness at all. Everything still works down there. And I'm
Right.
like you. I love sex.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, listen, a chick be going in withdrawal mode if I don't get any, okay? So
Right.
Oh
but
Right.
wow.
But just
but
imagine these women who, can you imagine if you think about the three of us that had said we like sex? So we probably have a pretty decent sex drive.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine that disappearing and
Mm.
you wanting it, but your body not
Mm.
corresponding with your want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's crazy.
gotta be. It's I mean, menopause is hell. My girlfriend said they took her off of hormones. She said I was ready to kill everybody in the house. I didn't want my husband. She said the
Mm.
sound of my husband walking was like, she said I was ready to explode, and she made the doctors put it back on, and she said now my house is peaceful again and everything is
Uh,
great.
Everything
Okay.
is lollipops and rainbows.
And rainbows. But men don't understand, and it's just like they did used to in the 1800s when Kim had mentioned it earlier. KL, I'm sorry, had mentioned it earlier about hysteria, with the hysterectomy. That is the prefix to a
Hmm.
hysterectomy, is they
Mm.
treated us as we were hysterical, and the
Right.
way they
Exactly.
treated us
Yeah.
was
Women get treated
giving
so
us
bad.
orgasms. Wait a
Right.
minute, the
Yeah.
nasty dogs, the way they treated us was
Right.
giving us orgasms. So they getting their rocks off, getting
Exactly.
our rocks off.
Right. Right. So that actually leads me into sexual lifestyle. So with sexual lifestyle, and let me put this up on the board. Okay, sexual activity and menopause related symptoms among women aged 50 through 80 in the past year.
I hope I'm having sex at
43%
80.
were sexually active, yes, Jesus, and 62% were satisfied with their sexually active, won't he do it? And 28% said menopause related symptoms interfered with their ability to be sexually active.
That's
Yeah,
sad.
I
it
don't know.
is.
Now, I find that the older I get, I don't know if menopause plays a part, but like I've been celibate for about 3 years now, and I don't think that's voluntary necessarily. Um, but I do put her through the paces to make sure,
Do
I like
exercise.
that. I like that.
to make
Love
sure
it.
she's still functioning. But yeah,
We still
like
have conversations with each other.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Of course.
I
Yeah. You have
communicate
to
to myself.
improvise. You know, I get it.
Yes.
Right.
But it's weird because like you were talking about, the desire versus the ability, and I don't know if, I'm sure I'm still have the ability, but life is life, and so I really don't think about it as much as I used to. And I guess the longer time goes by, I just realize, what the fuck, like 3 years has passed, what is wrong with you?
Right.
And yeah, so
But you have the desire. They 28% of those women that were polled, they no longer have that desire. Now just imagine if these women were sexually active, because as we
married.
get older, my sisters are in their late 60s and early 70s, my older sisters. And every year I turned 30, 40, 50, they were like, your sex life is just going to get better. And when I was in my 30s, it was good. When in my 40s, it was great. And then when I turned 50, it was phenomenal because my libido just kept rising. It's really
Yeah.
hard to find a man that could do 2 rounds in a night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No,
Girl,
I,
I
I
Because,
used to
think
tell
you're
you.
more sure of yourself the older that you get. I think that,
Yeah, and
well,
you
a
know
lot
what?
of prerequisites
Divorce
society
did
puts on.
wonders for me. Because
yes,
after my
bang into the
divorce,
amen choir about that.
after my divorce, a chick just was like, "Woo, okay, I enjoy sex a whole lot better. I ain't gonna lie." I
But
don't
it's
know if
but
it's
it's
because I got
also
older or it's because I
the
was able
partners
to
were
just
different and they were attentive. They paid attention. They
right.
paid attention. Remember back in the day when we were in the building and we did that conference and all of those women that came, we made all
Yes,
the men leave and we had
right,
that conversation
right.
with women, and these women had been married 20, 30, 40 years and
Yeah,
ended up getting a divorce and having their first orgasm at
right.
Yep.
45 years old because they didn't have those partners.
Yeah, I was like, "Whoa, really?"
That's what this is.
That I was just like, "Ooh." I had to clutch my pearls. Like, never, never.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. That was really shocking. And it wasn't anything like a lot of them had talked about, they were happy in every other regard of, what was going on. It wasn't like it was a lot of issues. It was just the fact that they weren't getting their needs met. And I think a lot of times, especially when we have women who get married young and stay with
Hmm.
the same partner for a long period of time, you really don't get the ability to
Experience.
express your needs or to say what you like because you haven't experienced it. And if the person that you're with isn't open to suggestion or experimentation, then you're kind of limited in what your experience is going to be long term. So yeah, I can
Mm-hmm.
understand that,
That's
especially
probably
when you
why
get
I
married.
never got married, because I would cheat. It's only, I mean, I look at it, even when I was with my high school sweetheart, I think I stepped out like 2 or 3 times
Uh-huh.
because I knew it had to be, I mean, we were in high school,
Right.
but
Yeah.
my circle of women, we were very open about talking to each other about what we liked, what we didn't like, what happened, what didn't happen, what we would have liked to happen. And I'm sitting back, and then this is a different Sassy that y'all are meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Sassy wasn't always sassy. So Sandra was very, in her mind, she was the freak of the week.
Demure.
But yes, but as I got older, I was like, well, they doing this. I want to try it. And you're right, KL, when it comes to that having a partner that was open. When I
Yeah.
tried to bring it to him, he's like, where you learn that from? I said,
Right.
well, I haven't
Yeah.
learned it anyway. I said, but I do watch porn,
Yeah.
and it looked
Yeah.
like it would be fun. It's
Right.
like,
I mean, you
let's try
learn,
it.
and that was my thing. Like, I learned things that I like that I didn't necessarily know that I liked. You
Yeah, I
know.
remember it's on air. I remember some of the things on air you was talking about. I was like, shut it up. You got these whoremongers out here. They hear that you ain't doing it. Somebody will.
I mean,
It's
yeah, I
like,
mean, because
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa, okay, 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 all right, okay, I like that. Okay, I can work with
you picking up what we
that.
laying
So
down
right,
now,
right.
right?
So
That's
it
interesting.
is, it
Who
does when
knew
you
this was
have a
good?
partner. Yeah, when you have a partner who actually gets it and knows and can, then it
And
does
it's
make a
open.
difference.
Like Kim said,
Yes,
it's
it's
open.
open.
You have to
Right,
have that open mind.
right,
And
exactly,
and
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 not
not been, I
so.
think those women in that room, one of the main things that they kept saying was that they knew it was more. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know we've been married, we have a really good life, but it's more to it.
Right.
It's
Hmm.
more to life than just this. This can't be my life.
There. But you
And I
know what
think a
else
lot
I
of what
learned?
happens with that is that a lot of things that happen for foreplay for women, or at least for me, happen before you even get to the bedroom. It's about how we spent
Ex-
the day and
Hmm.
how
Yep.
you treated me during the day, how you talked to me, how,
Mm-hmm.
how you handle me. And so by the time we
Mm-hmm.
get to the bedroom, like, you're ready already. Like, you've already put me in a mindset that I feel safe, that I feel protected, that I feel, I can express myself, I can be vulnerable, I can, have fun. And I think that a lot of times when you don't have that, um, and I can only speak for me personally, when you get married young and you don't have a lot of experience, I think that it kind of limits your ability to have a voice of
Yeah.
what it is you want as you grow and you start to figure out, okay, I may want to try this, or, I have a desire for that, or I see that and that looks interesting. And it goes back to kind of what you said, Sassy, about, having the ability to grow with your partner and having that partner not be like, well, where'd you learn that from? And
Right.
making you kind of closed off again. So,
Mm-hmm.
like when we were talking about women who were married for 30, 40, years, a lot of times they got married young. And back in the day, or back in our day, I would say, a lot of the mentality of what women were supposed to do or what wives were supposed to do, you're a wife, you're not supposed to do that. You're a wife, you're not supposed to do that. And so, like, a lot of those desires were pressed down, and we weren't allowed to have those feelings. They weren't justified. That wasn't for a wife to do. So I think a lot of the narrative had to change, and we had to empower ourselves to be like, okay, I'm sexual like you're sexual, and I want things like you want things. But we didn't get that back in the day.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because I was married for like 17 years. And one thing
But
that
how
I,
long were y'all together? Not just married. How long were y'all together?
well, I mean, we were together probably, I mean, we were together a year before we ended up getting married. But I mean, we ended up getting married and having a baby all in the same year.
That's quick though. A
Okay.
year.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I mean it was a big decision for me because I was one, I didn't want to get married, but I ended up getting married anyway. But I think in some situations is that sometimes the man can put their wife in a box, and it's kind of like you're supposed to be one way. You can't.
Yeah.
And with me, I had to realize, I was an industry wife. So, there was certain ways that, you had to kind of be. And sometimes, you realize, I mean, now, like, it's nothing wrong with being a freak in the bedroom. You ain't out here doing nothing. But, I mean, but sometimes when you do, like Sassy said, they're kind of like looking at you like, what the hell you doing?
Right.
So,
Where
it's
did you learn that from, or who did you do it with? And it's like,
And
I
that
just
shuts you
feel
down.
sad. I feel sad for women. I mean, we can have these conversations all day long, especially with situations with Sassy. I'm always talking about dating and relationships, and when you have these conversations, I've been doing situations with Sassy almost 20 years now, and the conversation hasn't changed. If
right.
anything, it's gotten worse. So if you meet this person, the two of you were married, right? Or married. And if the fact of the matter is, if you can't talk to this person that you married,
Hmm.
even over time, I know we all grow and we shift and we change, and relationships tend to have like an ebb and flow where you grow apart, you come back together, you grow apart, you come back together. You still didn't feel comfortable having these conversations. I see that as a problem because communication outside of sex and finances will also kill a relationship if you're
Yeah,
not communicating
that's true.
properly.
That's true.
Definitely.
All right, so one other thing, another little known fact, and let's put it up on the whiteboard. So, women have menopause, but men have something called andropause.
No, wasn't that interesting?
Yes,
I know
and
that.
this occurs around age 50.
Yup.
And so statistics says not every man goes through this, but the amount of testosterone in males is 20 times more than it is in females. And typically, male produces between 5 to 10 um, milligrams of testosterone
Yeah.
every day. So
Damn.
it can drop like 1% per year after they turn age 30. So
Oh, so that's
men,
why the
it
blue
ain't
pills
just
came.
us. You go through some
That's
stuff
why they
too.
need them damn pills.
Mm-hmm.
The little
And
blue
that's why
pills.
they. But you know what? I think men. We've always called it that they, men on their cycle because men go through their phases as well. But they would
Hmm.
never. And I didn't want to mention this to any of the men that I know. But now that we're doing this, I'm going to mention it to them and see if
Hmm.
they have any of those symptoms. But does your whiteboard allow to add some of the symptoms that women have? Because some other symptoms I didn't know were
Yeah. On
breast
there.
tenderness and so.
Yeah, we have 4 out of 10 women are bothered by hot flashes during menopause. Estimated 6,000 women in the U.S. reach menopause every day. And
Ooh.
women between the age of 35 and 50 have a decrease in hormones, estrogen and progesterone. And
Mm-hmm.
estrogen decreases 35%, where progesterone decreases 75%.
Which
Yeah,
is why we have to take the hormones.
that's why we have to take the hormone pills.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of build that up.
But
So,
one of the things that I noticed as I started to age, and even though I didn't have the hot flashes or the night sweats, one of the menopausal symptoms I had was hair loss, and my hair thinned.
hmm.
And at the top of my head, I mean, if I don't wear protective style, I look like Kizzy. If you know, you know. So
Right.
I've never been one of those people that wanted to shave it off and whatnot. That's not me. But the loss of my hair, and if you guys knew me back in the day, I had beautiful thick black hair,
Hmm.
and for it to just thin the way it did just
Yeah.
gradually, that was
Right.
a symptom of menopause that I didn't know. Had I known, I could have gone and did those, like, my niece takes, this isn't a plug, but she takes Nutrafol,
Hmm.
and she's been taking it
Okay.
for years now. Her hair is thick, and it's just thick and luxurious, but that's an expensive
It is.
treatment. It's like
It
80 some
is.
dollars for 30 pills. And you
Right.
got to take 2 or 3 pills a day.
Yeah, and I take their I mean I take, pills for hair and skin. I take, biotin and
The
all that stuff.
biotin.
But I mean, I always had fine hair, but I had long
Mm-hmm.
hair at one time. So, but I did notice that, I started kind of losing a little bit, and then so I ended up like, okay, and then it just seemed to grow a certain length and then it would stop. So
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I decided, okay, a girlfriend of mine was like, hey, why don't you go to this person? Um, actually, um, he's Giselle's hairdresser. And I ended up going to him, and he,
Oh,
Cal,
what's
and
his name?
Cal,
Doctor, what is it?
Cal.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, and he gave me this cut, and he told me exactly what was going on with my hair, and he was just like, it's gonna take some time, but get it back growing. So I realized, okay, I got to start paying attention to these things. And,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I had to stop coloring my hair myself. He was like, you can't color your hair yourself. I was going to Dominicans. Hey, listen, I ain't no shot at Dominicans, but they were using probably too much heat on my hair. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
your hair just can't handle that. So, I started saying, okay, I don't want to, my hair to start thinning, even though I had fine hair. I wanted to, just to start growing and everything. And and I realized that that was part of going through this premenopause or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I started taking a little bit more note of it. And it's
Right.
like, okay, let me start focusing on making sure I don't lose shit, because
You don't have a lot to lose. But
so
the other thing, when I talk to my girlfriends, the other thing we have, and chime in, do you get the brain fatigue and the brain fog? Like,
yes,
what did I come in here for? And I can't
Oh,
keep
yes,
that's
it.
all the time.
I drop everything. I might drop my pen earlier this morning. I dropped it 3 times before I was able to like pick it up, and I'm in here cussing out myself like, God damn it, Seth, like you need to pick it up. But it's all part of the menopause.
right,
I do
right,
want to talk about the fact that minority women, just like in general in the healthcare system, we experience earlier onset symptoms, more severe symptoms than our white counterparts. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of socioeconomical disparities and a lot of racism and structural issues play
Mm-hmm.
a part in it, because one, the way in which we live, the environmental issues impact our menopausal and our menstrual cycles.
right.
The foods and things that we eat, or the lack of diversity in foods that we eat, impact our menopausal cycles and our menstruation cycles. And
Hmm.
a lot of us have the issues that we have with the physicians and the medical establishment, so we don't go when we have those issues with like the blockage and the pain and the extra heavy um period
Cycles.
cycles.
Hmm.
And when we go, we don't get the same treatment or the same care or medication, because they think we take pain more, or that we're built different. So we don't get the treatment. Like I said, I didn't get offered estrogen, but I happened to find a site that was with white women, and they were talking about how their doctor immediately put them on estrogen following their hysterectomies. And so I think that it's not just the actual position of menopause. It's actually the socioeconomical factors of us having to always go through something a lot more tumultuous, a lot more horrendous than other people. And something as simple as what your body normally does impacts us at a far greater rate than it does our white counterparts, for a number of reasons. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's
I would
just,
have
yeah.
immediately gotten to that doctor. And I am in the transition period of changing all of my doctors to black doctors. I just found a phenomenal doctor, a dentist, married couple here in Annapolis. But my OBGYN, and she's not black, she's a young white girl, but she did offer the estrogen and everything. She offered that to me, but we went through different things. And I told her, I said, for right now, until I have those symptoms, that's when I'll go on. I don't have any of those symptoms, other than, like I said, the fear, the abject fear of vaginal atrophy and vaginal
You knew
dryness.
that was all you
I could
cared about.
only really listen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was this stupid. That's how stupid I was. She was like, when I went to the doctors and I'm asking her, she said, you can't have any, you can't have any sex, so nothing in it. I said, can he lick it a little bit? She said, and she was a young girl, so she turned beet red. She was like, you cannot do anything. She said, because you still have stitches, right? And I said,
Oh wow.
stitches. This is how dumb I am. She said, yes. I said, why I need stitches? She said, so that your intestines won't fall out. I was like,
Oh my God.
okay.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Talk about
I'm
getting
like,
up in
that
your
makes sense.
guts.
But she said, you're right, dig it all up in your guts. But she said, I did give you what they call the mother-in-law stitch.
Oh, I had that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for all those
Kudos.
who don't know, what is the mother-in-law stitch? For all those who
It's
The
don't
just
know.
a
mother-in-law stitch is
hostess.
that extra stitch that make you a little tighter, because as women don't understand, as we get older, women, the other thing is, a lot of women who don't explore their bodies become one with themselves as they get older. Like, I think the doctor said you should only be like one or two fingers should be able to like go in easily. He said if you have a man that can go like this, he said, then your elasticity is completely gone.
Hmm.
And that's
Is
when you
that where
see
the
a lot of
fisting comes from?
huh?
The fisting?
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that
That's a
is a
whole
whole
different.
different
That's a
conversation. Is
whole different
that
topic, a whole
that
different
is that
conversation.
is,
But
and we.
women need to understand their bodies, and I think I knew that I needed to have this hysterectomy because one of the symptoms says that you go into menopause 12 months after you no longer have a cycle.
Hmm.
Well, my cycle has been irregular since I was in my 30s. So I
Hmm.
would have it, it would go away for 2 years, then it would come back
Oh
for three
shit.
years, then it would go away for 2 years. And so my cycle has always, it's never been regular. But last year, when it started in a big way. And I was having it every month for
Yeah.
15, 16 days out of each month. And I
Oh
couldn't do it
hell.
no more. I
Wow.
couldn't do it. And we were doing everything that we could for me not to have the surgery.
Hmm.
But the surgery was really the last resort. I said, listen, I'm 57. I ain't no goddamn babies.
Right.
Go ahead and get rid of
Was
them.
you
Get rid
having
of
the
the whole
pain and
thing.
everything else, or was it just bleeding?
It was severe. I don't even want to talk about it because it's like it
I'm
was
so sorry.
disgusting. But
Yeah.
but it's severe. Thank you. And that's what people don't
Yeah.
women who don't know their body, I knew something was wrong.
Something was wrong.
Imagine,
Yeah.
as you said, KL, the socioeconomic disparities that we have, and some women who know something's wrong don't have the insurance or the money to go
Right.
and find out what's wrong. So we die from
Yep.
from these things because it turns into cancer. It turns into vaginal cancer. It turns into uterine cancer. It can turn into ovarian cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Whew.
so we're gonna wrap it up, but
All right.
I do want to show our poll of the day.
Okay.
Our poll of the day is what are your top 3 things you have experienced going through menopause?
Oh,
So
this will
we
be
will,
interesting.
I can't wait for the
yeah.
response.
So
Yes.
yeah, make sure you answer, and then we'll give the top 3 that you gave next week. So this was good. I like
This
this. This was
was.
good. This was cool. All right. So make
I can't
sure you
wait.
catch.
I
Yeah, you
like the
catch
I
I
like
us.
the
always have
fact
so
that we're
much
not
fun when we
really.
tape, man. I hate for it
Right.
to
I
end. I be all
I
into
like
it.
the fact. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just hating this over so soon. I'll be
Yeah.
having
Well,
fun. I hope
Well,
you
I
guys
you
mean,
don't want to
enjoyed
go
it.
too long.
this right. This format you don't want to go too long, but I'm excited because it's unstructured,
It
so we can
is
talk about any and everything, and that's what I
everything.
And we
like.
do.
Everything.
And
Yeah.
do.
And we do. And we
Yeah. We
do.
do. We do. So
And we
make sure
do.
you catch us every Tuesday at 5 a.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, all of it. We'll be on there.
We'll be
If you
there.
follow us
Come hang out
on
with
Women's
us.
Talk
It'll be a good
Facebook
time.
page, We will also be on there, so make sure you
And
follow
it's
us.
just gonna be on at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you happen to see a drink in Sassy's hand. Just know it's 5 o'clock
Hey, listen,
somewhere.
it's somewhere.
Mm.
It's
It's
I
somewhere.
got
somewhere.
blueberry and pomegranate juice this time. Can't wait for next time.
All right, so let me give my final thought. Final
All
thought
right.
is, and this is the moment of change for women. I
Yes.
forgot what I was doing, retraced my steps, got distracted on my way back, have no idea what's going on, and
Yep.
now I have to pee.
Yes. That is so spot on. That
That's
is
good.
so spot
I
This
on.
like
is
that.
That's
Women's
good.
Talk Live overnight with your girl April J.
Your girl Sassy Scribe.
And KL Boogie.
And we'll see y'all next time, y'all. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Women talk live.